Hello everybody, Daniel here. I decided to make another video for y'all. That is really close, my bad. So, this video is kind of redundant, I'm sure, but repetition, right? The topic of the day is, in essence, overstimulation and the effect it's having on our society. The first thing I'm going to discuss is the effect it's had on relationships. Now, all relationships, they have their peaks, they have their standard, and they have their low points. That is going to happen because everything is a cycle, it's not one linear movement. It used to be when you found a relationship, yeah, the peaks caught your attention at first. They cause you to invest your time because you like those peaks. You found a standard based on mutual effort that is a sustainable level of contentment. Now, when it comes to things such as smart tech, digital distractions, you got your smartphones, YouTube, TikTok, Netflix, all that. These are all very convenient, and they can be entertaining. Now, one of the things they have shown is that light-based entertainment and stuff like that, such as like through a screen, can cause large amounts of stimulation and release of dopamine in the brain. Dopamine is the reward chemical. When you know you did the right choice, you complete a task, you get that little feeling of contentment, that yeah, done feeling. That is dopamine. So you get people that are watching these videos, sometimes hours at a time. I've done videos on this before. It creates such a high standard because of these extreme levels of dopamine that are being released that everyday activities can't compete. And the viability of general social interaction becomes the low, the part you don't like, the part that isn't worth the effort. Because it's too easy to get this from a screen. A person only gets you here. The only thing that catches it is those peaks. But those peaks can't happen all the time. A lot of people, they're not making this connection. They're looking for the peaks, and the second it drops, they think, well, this person's not worth my time anymore, and they just walk away from the relationship. They figure that person's not trying enough. They really don't care. Pick your storyline. Yes, I do believe that there are issues where people just quit trying. There are issues where people don't even really try at all. They get into a relationship just looking for somebody else to fix all their problems and make them feel better. There's issues with relationships where it's just a lack of compatibility. That people don't want to be alone. So they stay in relationships they shouldn't. But one of the underlying issues that I've noticed is a lot of the manifestations of things that cause relationships to spoil originates on that phone, on the screen, whatever your chosen medium is. It is so easy to pick that up and reach that high level of stimulation. It replaces the effort you would put into your relationship, into your partner, and gives it to that phone that doesn't care about it. So I think this is what causes a lot of the divide nowadays, where people feel like nobody cares. And in a lot of ways, they don't. Because the only thing that to them feels worth their time, comparative to the dopamine release in the brain, are those highs, those peak moments where you're at the top of the mountain for the first time looking out over the sky. They climb up, they climb down. That doesn't compete, that's just work. That's something against the moment. And there's going to be a lot more against moments like that than there is having them. That's just the reality of how things work. I think our dopamine addiction through smart tech and stuff like that has spoiled our ability to invest our time for these high moments when they're entirely too easy to reach through a digital medium. And it's something that I think really needs to be addressed. Now, where overstimulation comes into play here, as I said at the beginning, the brain can only release so much dopamine. It can only, create it so quickly. So when you're doing this stuff for extended periods of time, causing high levels of release, much like how it happens with bipolar, where you basically run out of these chemicals that the brain's releasing because you can, like I said, only release them so quick, or produce or release them so quick. That causes the level to kind of taper down despite the same level of demand for those releases. And this leads to manifestations of, rage, depression, all kinds of negative issues. And this, of course, oftentimes, especially in a relationship with somebody that's always on a, dang phone and such, they tend to take this out on their partner like it's their partner's fault for their unhappiness, when it's their own habits failing them. The answer should be simple. We should regulate and limit our time of digital distraction. But to do so feels horrible because it's like suddenly starving yourself when you know you're hungry. And a lot of that is that parallel between depression and hunger. We become accustomed to certain levels, both of nutrition and emotional stimulation, chemical stimulation. You know what I'm getting at here. I don't want to have to repeat myself every time with it. We're creating unrealistic, unsustainable standards for what we are defining as happiness, to where the realities of the world, that gray area where we're at the majority of the time, feels miserable. Much like people trying to lose weight have to struggle with the uncomfortable realities of a diet, we need to start doing that digitally. We need to make ourselves put the phone down. Get a real book and read it. You're going to get, some interaction from the reading and the imagination. You're feeding elements of your brain with that, causing stimulation, to the various regions that do need the stimulation. But it's not being overridden by all the light waves that are just basically dominating the entire system. Stand outside for a bit. Just take a breath and feel the breeze moving across your skin. These are foundational things that connect us to the world around us. Mindfulness, grounding principles, some of the most effective tactics for dealing with things like anxiety. And that is for good reason, because it reconnects us to the world we have to live in. All the digital elements of it, the smartphone, TikTok, Netflix, all that crap, it pulls us from it. It tears us away from that world. And it puts us in a world that, and many times, yes, feels better. It doesn't have all the same stresses, the same fears, the same frustrations as what we open our eyes to. That's what's all around us. But the problem is, because it's so easy to escape those realities, we want to jump right to the escape, and we don't address and deal with things that need to be addressed. We don't take time to sit with our partners, when they're upset, to help them navigate them lows, to bring them back up to a sustainable standard. Because we don't have to lower ourselves from that higher standard we're at from the digital distraction. To help them, we have to hurt ourselves. People just seem unwilling to do that anymore. They're unwilling to acknowledge the needs of another because it's inconvenient to their own digital high. And that gets down to elements regarding drug addiction, because that's in essence what it is. The main variable is it's a drug in our own bodies. It's not something we're ingesting or something we're taking to get that high. We're basically exploiting a mechanism to trigger it within ourselves. Therefore, we consider it morally acceptable, socially encouraged. If we don't do something, it's going to collapse. And we're not going to have the means or ability to do anything about it. Because all we will be able to do is jump online and complain. And nothing will ever get addressed. And the people that are seizing control during all of this do not have your best interest at heart. Make no mistake. Oh, they'll tell you they do. Because they want you to enable them. Have your phone time. Have your moments of distraction, because we need that outlet and release. But we need to rejoin the real world and start looking at things that need to be looked at, dealing with things that need to be dealt with, and addressing things that need to be addressed. It's not going to be fun. Definitely not going to be easy. And it's going to feel like a punishment. Because instead of getting all those vast amounts of dopamine, it's going to feel like a trickle in comparison. But life isn't about the reward, it's about the journey. Not just for yourself, but the legacy for those you leave behind you. And you don't leave a legacy when you're facing the screen. Anyway, just figured I'd say that. Have fun. If anything, just to lighten it up a little bit, there's my shirt. I'm sure at least one or two people that see this are going to be like, what does the rest of that say? There, I just satiated your curiosity. Have a good day. Bye.